Today we're going to be doing another Odroid build, but this time for an Odroid H4 Plus. The H4 Plus is in the middle of the H4 range. We've reviewed the H4 Ultra and the basic H4, so today it's the H4 Plus. But in addition to this, one of the things you may want to do with your H4 is to mount it in an ITX case. And since the mounting points of the H4 motherboard do not match the standard ITX, this can be problematic. However, Odroid have produced one of these. This is an H4 Mini ITX adapter, and this is what we're going to be looking at today. So first of all, let's put the H4 Plus together. And here is our H4 Plus. Unlike the basic H4, this has the 4 SATA power ports and 4 SATA data ports. And on the underside, we have the single slot for the memory and the M.2 slot. And we're going to populate both of these. And that's our memory card installed. Now we'll add in the SSD. There we are. Now we have the memory and SSD card securely in place. And we will add in our CMOS battery. Our next task is to mount this in our ITX converter. As you will see, this comes in 3 parts. First of all, we have the base plate, and then we have the fascia, and then we have a top plate as well. And additionally, we have a bag of bits. So having fitted all the parts to our Odroid, we can look to mount it on this base. As you will see, the holes line up. Now we need to put in these 2 standoffs in here, because these are going to support this plate. Like so. And as you will see, the entire base plate is fully exposed, so it allows reasonable airflow. Yet the mounting points for an ITX are easily accessible. So we will now fit this in place. Now, our fascia should sit quite nicely on the end. And this is basically your I/O shield. Now, as you will see from this side, we have a cutout here so that you can use this for the basic H4. So in order to access this port, we need to push out this little plate. And there we have our perfectly fitted fascia. So with this in place, can we now fit this into an ITX board? Now, as you will see, you have a number of options here. If you're going to be powering this from a standard ATX power supply, this does come with a power switch with your standard 24-pin ATX. And we can fit this through the front of our fascia. Now this is an ITX case we worked on in a previous video, so let's see if it'll fit inside this small case. First of all, we will remove the top. off. Now we can discard the IO shield we were using in the last build. Not going to need that one. Now we should be able to fit this inside this case and mount it in its mounting holes. And it fits in remarkably well. So let's ensure we have the fascia plate in place. And then we'll just roll this in. Wires out of the way. Okay, let's get those screwed in. And there we have the ITX converter fitted quite nicely into this case. And it does leave, as expected, quite a lot of room inside the main case. Of course, we need to connect our front panel of the power switch to the GPIO pins. Right, that should be our power switch connected. We have two other connectors here, one for the hard disk LED, which there is no pin out on this for, and the other one for the power LED. That should be enough for us to power up, and we'll just store this cable in here for the moment. Now with this in place, we can access the full fascia, we can plug in an Odroid power connector into this socket here, and we should be able to power the unit up. However, I also want to put some cooling fans in place. And for this task, I'm looking at using two of these. These are 40 by 10mm Noctua fans. Now these will fit quite nicely inside the case, and I want one of these fans to pull air into the case and one to pull air out of the case. So fans securely in place. Now as we're going to have two fans, we'll need a Y splitter. Right, and we'll mount the other fan on the other side of the case. Now all we need to do is to locate a Y splitter so we can plug both of these 3-pin cables into our 4-pin socket on the motherboard. Now we have an appropriate Y splitter. So we can plug both of these in here and plug this into the motherboard. A bit of cable tying and that'll be tidy. Now the only dilemma we have with this particular case is that there are two ports on the front of the case to allow us to connect USB devices. And these are brought out to a USB motherboard header cable. Now we have no such cable on the Odroid itself, but we do have a number of USB sockets on the back. So we have a dilemma whether we actually route these back into the case to allow us to plug this in, or just allow the front two ports to be non-functional. So for the moment I'm going to leave those as non-functional, and we're going to pop the lid back on. And there we have our completed case. We have an Odroid H4 Plus fitted inside a micro ITX case quite successfully. All we need to do is to power it up. Now that we have everything connected, we can attempt to power up our Odroid. And we hit the power button on the front. And we're immediately into the BIOS. So our computer has powered up quite nicely. And I can hear the fans very quietly running in the background. And the intake is on this side of the board, and the extractor fan is on this side. While the fans are not particularly large or shifting a great deal of air, there's enough cooling to keep our computer quite happy. Now, if you have this unit installed in a larger case which has a full ATX type power supply, you'll find the use for the power switch on the back. The main power switch on the back of the unit is to trigger an ATX power supply to switch on. You can then use one of these cables, which has an Odroid connector at one end and a Molex connector at the other. This can be fed through this slot on the back fascia into this slot, and this end can be connected to a Molex plug on your power supply, allowing the Odroid to be powered by a standard ATX supply. However, as I plan on using this completely standalone, in the case we now see before us, as a media center, I will be leaving it powered by the standard Odroid connectors and power supply. Hopefully you'll find this ITX converter board useful for your own builds, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching.